Born in Columbus, Georgia in 1895, Eugene Jacques Bullard came of age in a world shaped by racial terror and rigid segregation. His childhood was abruptly altered when Eugene Bullard's father, William Octave Bullard, was working as a laborer in the turpentine industry. One day, while at work, William Bullard was involved in a physical altercation with a white coworker. In the aftermath, death threats followed, forcing the family into hiding and directly contributing to Eugene's decision to flee Columbus as a child. For young Eugene, Columbus was a place he could no longer remain safe. Those threats did more than force him from home. They planted in him a fierce resolve to seek freedom beyond America's borders. Eugene Bullard was 11 years old when he snuck onto a merchant ship and left the United States, beginning the journey that would eventually take him to Europe and change the course of his life. Eugene eventually found passage across the Atlantic to Europe, initially docking in Ireland. He later found his way to France. Once there, he discovered something he had never known in the United States: the ability to walk the streets without prejudice, to be judged by his actions rather than his skin color. When World War I erupted, Bullard did not hesitate. He enlisted in the French Foreign Legion, one of the only military units that would accept him. He fought bravely in trench warfare until he was seriously wounded, earning the respect of his comrades and commanders under fire. In March 1916, during heavy fighting, Bullard's unit came under intense shell fire. An exploding artillery shell struck near his position, shrapnel tearing into his body and knocking him to the ground. The blast caused severe injuries, ending his service as a frontline infantryman. Many soldiers wounded at Verdun never walked again, or never left the battlefield at all. Bullard survived, but his injuries were significant enough that he was declared unfit for further infantry duty. Rather than accept removal from the war altogether, he refused to quit. During his recovery, he volunteered for aviation duty, choosing the skies over the trenches. That decision directly led to his historic role as Europe's first black military combat pilot with the French Air Service. Bullard, after being accepted into the French Air Service, proved to be an exceptional student. Early military aviation required far more than courage. Pilots had to understand engines, weather patterns, navigation, aerial tactics, and aircraft maintenance. Bullard showed a unique combination of mechanical aptitude, calm under pressure, and spatial awareness. He trained extensively on aircraft such as the Newport fighters, mastering takeoffs, landings, aerial maneuvering, and combat engagement at a time when planes had no parachutes and minimal instrumentation. Bullard learned how to anticipate enemy movement, conserve energy, and strike decisively, skills that made him effective in dogfights and respected among fellow pilots. Because of his proficiency and professionalism, Bullard was later trusted with advanced responsibilities, including training and mentoring other pilots. As a flight instructor, he helped teach the fundamentals of aircraft control, combat awareness, and survival, passing on hard-earned knowledge gained in the air and under fire. This role reflected not only his technical mastery, but also the confidence the French Air Service placed in him during wartime. By the end of World War I, Eugene Bullard was not simply a pilot. He was a master aviator shaped by experience, discipline, and resilience. His rise from wounded infantryman to combat pilot and instructor stands as one of the most remarkable aviation stories of the early 20th century. Achieved in an era when both flight and racial equality were still considered irrational ideas by mainstream society. After World War I ended, Bullard remained in Paris, where he became a prominent figure in the city's black expatriate and jazz age scenes. As a former pro boxer, jazz club musician, and new nightclub owner, he helped create cultural spaces that welcomed artists, musicians, and intellectuals from around the world. His club became a symbol of freedom, creativity, and Black excellence abroad. Eugene Bullard was 44 when World War II began. Despite being well past typical combat age and already a wounded World War I veteran, Bullard still chose to assist France again, placing himself in direct danger during the German occupation. Bullard, fluent in German, worked with the French resistance as a spy in his nightclub, with the German officers being unaware that he could speak and clearly understand German. He retrieved valuable information to aid in France's war effort. After being exposed in his role with the resistance, Bullard came under attack while attempting to flee Paris. As German troops advanced, Bullard helped evacuate civilians and provide support to French units also retreating south. During this chaotic withdrawal, his vehicle came under aerial attack by German aircraft. Machine gun fire struck the area, and Bullard was seriously wounded, sustaining injuries, particularly to his back, that would later cause long-term pain and disability. Despite his wounds, Bullard survived and was evacuated from France. He and his 2 daughters were eventually transported to the United States, where he lived the remainder of his life. The injuries he suffered in World War II, compounded with the damage from his World War I wounds, limited his ability to work, contributing to the hardship he faced in later years. He eventually returned to Harlem, New York in the United States, where he lived quietly and worked security jobs, and eventually became an elevator operator, largely unrecognized by the country of his birth. Bullard, who had once been a celebrated pilot, decorated French war hero, and Paris nightclub owner, spent his final working years in roles that reflected how completely his achievements were undervalued and just disregarded in the United States. Ironically, Eugene Bullard was rediscovered in the 1950s through a chance encounter that shocked visiting French officials and quietly corrected a historic injustice. In 1954, a French diplomatic delegation traveled to New York City for a World War I veterans event. As part of the visit, they toured a Manhattan building where an elevator operator, an older Black man, slightly stooped and visibly worn, was working his shift. When the French visitors noticed the man wearing French military medals, including decorations from World War I, they stopped in disbelief. The diplomat struck up a conversation and soon realized the truth. The elevator operator was Eugene Bullard, the same man who was wounded but survived at Verdun, flown combat missions as a top French pilot, and bled for France in 2 world wars. To the Americans around him, Bullard was just another faceless Black man working as a laborer. To the French delegation, he was a national hero, a soldier they believed long forgotten or dead. The discovery caused immediate embarrassment and reflection. France responded by formally honoring Bullard once again. In 1959, he was invited to France as a guest of honor and was made a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor, one of the country's highest distinctions. He was celebrated in military ceremonies, recognized publicly, and thanked by the nation he had defended decades earlier. Eugene Bullard's rediscovery didn't just restore his name, it exposed how completely his homeland had failed to see him, and how history sometimes waits for the right witness to tell the truth. Today, Eugene Bullard's life stands as a testament to resilience and truth. Forced out of Columbus by racial injustice, he became a European war hero, cultural pioneer, and symbol of what happens when courage refuses to be confined. His story reminds us that some of America's greatest heroes had to leave America not only to become free, but to also become great. One brave act, by an 11-year-old fleeing racial intimidation, set in motion the story of a boy from Columbus, Georgia, who would live on to become an international war hero.